Reinvented back in the early noughties, the 3-door mini hatch will go down in history as something of a runaway success. Sales have been growing steadily, in fact, with the maker peaking across all models at almost 400,000 global units back in 2017. SUVs, sports cars and even mini convertibles have come and gone, and yet the cute, cuddly 3-door remains. 3 generations later, and the company has prepared itself for its biggest step change to date. Despite dipping its toe in the water in 2009 with a handful of electric prototypes, it's taken Mini 2 decades to come up with its first production-ready electric car. We tried the Mini Electric back in the US at the start of the year, but here we are in the UK, just a few miles from where it's built in Oxford, to try it properly on UK roads for the first time. Surely electrification is no better suited to any kind of car than a small, fun-to-drive mini hatch. The Mini Electric is only available with a relatively small 32.6 kilowatt-hour battery with a usable capacity of 28.9 kilowatt-hours. There's no option of a longer range version, and Mini has no plans to add a bigger battery at a later stage. It's available in 3 easy-to-understand specification levels. They don't quite mirror the standard car's classic, sport and exclusive trims. Instead, they're called Level 1, Level 2 and Level 3. The basic Level 1 car represents the best value for money. It gets a 6.5-inch touchscreen sat-nav display, Apple CarPlay and Mini Connected, which offers up live information like charge point availability and current traffic conditions. This version also boasts a digital cockpit display, cruise control and 2-zone climate control. Level 2, like our car, costs another £2,000 and adds the driving assistant package with things like speed limit and traffic sign recognition. It also adds heated part leatherette seats and a choice of additional paint and wheel options. The range-topping Level 3 costs an additional £4,000 and heralds big car kit like a head-up display, a panoramic sunroof, a Harman Kardon stereo, full leather seats and a larger 8.8-inch sat-nav screen. While this equipment makes the Mini Electric feel like a truly premium car, they're luxuries rather than essentials. There's no 5-door Mini Electric, and that seems like a bit of an oversight because practicality isn't a strong point in here. That said, if there's just 2 of you or you're using this as a second car, there's really little cause for complaint. The Mini sticks to a tried and tested formula in here, made famous by the petrol version of the car. Now everything centres around this circular display in the middle, which houses everything from the sat-nav to a few buttons and things like that. And while the similarly circular speedo behind the steering wheel has been swapped for a more oval-like digital display, it all feels reassuringly familiar. The climate controls are all big, round buttons that are really easy to use, and the toggle switches below have been carried over pretty much unchanged, albeit with a slightly electric twist. So you've got stuff like the regenerative braking, the start-stop button has been made yellow like much of the details around the car, and then there's the drive modes, which include a green and a green plus mode for maximising range of the battery. Quality is good and these seats are really supportive. Visibility, on the other hand, isn't great, but in a car so small and with such short overhangs, that's unlikely to matter. And if it does, and parking is a challenge for you, this car, the Level 2, gets a reversing camera as standard. On the surface, the Mini Electric's charging times appear quite fast. However, that is partly due to the small battery, which inevitably doesn't take very long to top up from empty. The Mini's maximum charge rate from a standard charger is 11 kilowatts, but you need 3-phase electrics to benefit from this, which very few domestic properties have. Realistically, buyers will be using a 7.4 kilowatt charger at home that will fully charge the Mini in just under 5 hours. The Mini can manage a maximum 50 kilowatts at a public rapid charger, allowing for a 10 to 80% charge in 28 minutes. Things slow dramatically when you hit 80% though, topping up to full capacity will take another hour. Mini includes a cable for charging at Type 2 stations, as well as a cable for plugging into 3-pin domestic sockets, the latter allowing for a 10 to 80% charge in around 15 hours. On the road, it's no exaggeration to call this Mini the first proper electric hot hatch. It feels so playful and just like a Mini should, and that is a great thing. On paper, you may look at the Cooper S badge and wish for a little bit more, but 0 to 62 miles an hour in just over 7 seconds actually feels so much faster on the road when you put your foot down. But there's so much more to this experience that makes this Mini so fun to drive. It's the steering that feels alive in your hands, it's the little bit of wheel spin and the torque steer as you come out of a junction. It's the ride that's just the right side of firm. This car is just a really nice complete package that really rewards the driver. Speaking of rewarding the driver, there's a little bit more on top. It's the body control, it's the grip, it's the handling. It's just a really nice, fun to drive package that you really haven't seen anywhere else in the electric world so far. Certainly not at this price point. Running a small electric car will work wonders for your bank balance, and because it's got such a small battery, charging at home will only cost a couple of quid. The Mini is exempt from road tax and company car tax, at least for the time being, as well as being free from things like the London congestion charge and various low emission zones. Range aside, as something of a future-proof small car, there's really little to fault when it comes to running costs. Now, like with most electric cars, the Mini comes with a regenerative braking system, but it's much stronger in here than it is in most cars. And the first is basically a coasting function, so you lift off and you feel very little, but the second allows for one pedal driving. And if you're on a road like this, a nice twisty country road, the energy that it actually generates and recaptures and saves can allow you to see the range meter basically not dropping at all. So fun and frugality. Raise your speed a little and you will notice quite a bit of road noise from the tyres. It's a problem that plagues most electric cars, but it does seem to be a little bit worse in the Mini than in some others. But this isn't the kind of car that you're going to do long distances in, so it's unlikely to be a problem for many buyers. Around town, of course, it's perfectly refined and really quiet. There are 4 drive modes, and depending on which one you pick, you could make quite a difference to your remaining range. So the standard mode and the one that the car starts in is normal, which gives you a kind of baseline to start with. If you flick it through to sport, you'll lose some of that range, but you'll get a bit of added performance, and it really does leap off the line if you're in that setting. Next is green mode, which limits some of the power, but really seems like enough for most of your daily duties. And the last of which is green plus, which limits power again and turns off things like the air conditioning. This perhaps is one step too far, but in reality that range is going to be a sticking point for a lot of people. And it's a shame because Mini claims 140 to 145 miles, which doesn't sound too bad, but when you start getting 100 miles or 110 miles from a charge, from a full battery, you do start to question whether you could use this as your only car. But if you do have the ability to top it up every 100 miles or so, then why write it off? It's a really cracking small car. The Mini Electric is a fast, fun, but flawed small electric car. It drives just like a Mini should, and in fact it feels like the first ever all-electric hot hatch, and we love it for that. But it suffers all the same problems as its petrol-powered sibling, namely practicality, price, and that range, which despite Mini's insistence will be a deal breaker for some buyers. It's a shame there's no 5-door with a bigger battery, because do you know what? That could be just the ticket. Head to DrivingElectric.com for all the latest electric and hybrid car advice, news and reviews, and check us out on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Finally, while you're here, make sure you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel and turn on notifications to ensure you never miss a video.